Hello everyone, welcome to the to a very interesting discussion with our panelists today. So today we have a webinar about boosting e-commerce sales with digital experience platform. So today we have with us Tom Sullivan, he's head of e-commerce sales in NZ distribution at Fletcher Building. We have Ritesh Patel, he's GM of digital and transformations at distribution division of Fletcher Building. We have Jason Hines, he is a principal B2B strategist at Bloomreach. We have Scott Bogley, he is a specialist account executive from SAP Customer Experience side. And we have Hema Priya. Hema Priya is a project manager who implemented the Bloomreach solutions for Placemakers. And I am Magesh Ramamurthy, I'm the account manager for Placemakers. So we have veterans from the B2B industry today who will talk us through the journey they took in implementing a very successful digital platform. So agenda for today, we have a small overview about Royal Sabre, who's hosting this webinar, and I will hand it over to Ritesh and Tom to tell us the story about how the Placemakers customer experience journey has started and how it has matured. Along the way, there'll be quite a lot of insights about the projects and the program that helped us to come to the stage. And throughout this presentation, we will have Scott and Jason adding nuggets about how the platform helped both Bloomreach and SAP Cloud Commerce platform helped in achieving the goals. And we will close it out with a Q&A at the end of it. So all of you will be muted during the course of this presentation. At any point you have any questions, click on the hand button on the screen. That will tell us that you have some questions. At the end of the Q&A session, we will open up your mic to either ask a question or alternatively put your questions in the chat. We will read it out to the panelists and they will answer during the Q&A session. So welcome all your questions and during the session. So about Royal Sabre. So Royal Sabre is a IT services company based out of Chicago with offshore development centers in Chennai, Bangalore, and Karachi in India and Pakistan. So we have about like 1,000 plus employees globally with clients of more than about 130 customers globally in 12 plus industries with 8 offices around the world and 3 innovation and product development centers. Royal Sabre focuses on pretty much everything digital and with highlight on customer experience and digital transformation. Things like latest things like big data, mobile technologies, business intelligence, robotic process automations, cloud and commerce, middleware and DevOps. So these are different areas where we have specialization in, and we are very proud to be partnered with Placemakers in helping them accomplish their digital journey. And a lot of the work we have done across around the world is appreciated by receiving certain awards like best place to work award in US, and also best cloud company in US. And we have partnership with leading platforms like SAP Commerce, Bloomreach, a partnership with other e-commerce platforms as well, like Commerce Cloud, like Salesforce and Adobe kind of solutions as well. So I'll hand it over to Ritesh to quickly give an introduction about the Fletcher Group and also specifically about Placemakers and set the context for this webinar.
Thanks, Magesh. Look, the Fletcher Group is a division of businesses across Australia and New Zealand. The revenue as a group is above $9 million over 20,000 employees across the organization. Our divisions range from construction, building materials manufacturing, to distribution. Placemakers is part of the distribution division. It's a $1.8 billion division with 3,000 employees. And primarily, we're the largest building merchant in New Zealand, over 60+ branches. We also have a plumbing supplies business called Micah, which is the leading plumbing supplies business in New Zealand, with another 60+ odd branches. So this implementation, what we're talking about is how we're digitizing and transforming the Placemakers organization. 2 years ago, Placemakers was a very analog organization. Majority of its transactions was through phone, fax, email, a very high-touch business. Over the last 2 years, we made a very deliberate journey to digitize our business, to digitize our operations, and get the customer involved in our journey. So that means that we partnered with SAP, Hybris, and Royal Cyber, and we launched a lot of customer-facing digital platforms: the Placemakers Trade app, the Placemakers Trade portal, our Placemakers consumer B2C site, all on this Hybris stack. One of the things we realized is we need to accelerate our product discovery and search. And a year ago, we reached out to Bloomreach in discussions, and since then, implemented a solution on our platform. So what I'll do now is get Tom to talk about our Bloomreach journey and the benefits that it has for the organization.
Thanks, Ritesh. If you can jump forward one. So just sort of to second and emphasize what Ritesh was saying, the framework I'll start by talking about today is some of the wider context around how we embarked on this journey, some of the deliberate steps that we took, and a bit of focus on the B2B customer. And so I'll primarily be talking to this discovery journey and our partnerships from a B2B framework. And it's important to recognize that the Placemakers as a business, about $1.5 billion in revenue, that's 95% B2B. And so some of the decisions that we made were very deliberate and specific to the type of customer who we're trying to attract, and that customer centricity, keeping their needs at the forefront of everything that we do. So Ritesh mentioned we're Placemakers and Micah. Placemakers is a heritage brand in the New Zealand construction market. We've been operating for 40 years, 64 branches nationwide, but the New Zealand building and hardware industry has been a bit of a digital laggard. We've been behind sort of globally, and even in New Zealand, this industry has been behind. So because of that, we're a very high touch, high service level, high cost model to serve our customers. So most of their interactions are person to person. They're physical, either they're in our branch every day or they are calling our customers. And that's across 70,000 plus trade customers, buying a really, really broad range of products as well. So when I talk about discovery later, I think it's important to realize that we're not a narrow and deep range, we're a broad and deep range. There are 75,000 products across over 80 product categories. And so actually our customers being able to self-serve and get what they need became a real challenge for us as we went through that digital journey. Thanks, Vigesh. So I thought I would start by showing you the Placemakers vision from 2018. So this is actually a few years old, and it was when we were about to embark on this digital journey. Ritesh talked about it being two and a bit years old for us. And so look, the vision today is not a whole lot different, but taking a step back to before we began this digital journey, look, our overall vision that no one is easy to do business with is still the same. And there were a couple of things that I wanted to call out on this, and one was the focus area around being solutions-led. So I mentioned that B2B customers, the builder, the tradesperson, the professional was 95% of our revenue. And so part of what we wanted to focus on was being solutions-led. We didn't have the intention of just standing up an e-commerce store, self-serve for the B2C customer. We actually needed to get really close to what our customers needed, understand their pain points, and work through that to actually meet their needs. And one of the areas where we decided that we were going to win, and the business made a conscious decision at this point in 2018, was through digital innovation. It was how we were going to differentiate from our competitors in the New Zealand market. And so one of the things that was really encouraging is that the business put this on their plan on a page. But we actually didn't have any of these digital building blocks, or a number of those digital building blocks, in place at this point in time. So the C-suite made the deliberate decision to say that it was going to be a focus area, and then Ritesh set about working out how we were going to do that, who the partners are that we'd choose, and actually how we would deliver this value to our customers. Thanks, Mangesh. And so I think when we kicked off the journey in 2019, it would be fair to say that we were fairly immature in our digital competencies, and definitely our customer-facing digital competencies. So we were barely more than a static presence. From a Placemakers point of view, we didn't even have an e-commerce store at that point. Fletcher Distribution had set up a separate digital ventures business unit that was running B2C e-commerce under another brand. And that was effectively a test and learn iterative business unit using sort of simple platforms and working through what our customers might respond to in the hardware market. But from Placemakers, that core revenue driver, that core value driver, we were effectively just a website and a couple of integrations to things like a customer being able to check their invoice. There was no ability for customers to order online. There was no ability for them to track their orders online, or to really interact with the branch network online. So we've gone from that static presence to actually being the best in market in the hardware industry, and we think we're the best in market by some distance in a space of 2 and a bit years, moving through to almost being in that position where we're an e-business. And without giving the game away too much, we've gone from 0% of our sales online to, over the last few months, 8 or 9% of our sales online before COVID lockdowns came in. So starting to get to that runway where we're getting to close to 10% of the business's revenue being transacted online, and in such a short space of time, when the in-person service levels that we offered are so good. That's actually really remarkable. And we did it by being really deliberate about the choices that we made. So one of the things that we began the journey with was delivering an integrated digital distribution omni-channel offer. And that integrated word is really important. There are sort of 3 key things that I think about when you talk about the success of a B2B e-business. The first one is that you have to have a seamlessly integrated backend. Your customers actually need to be able to interact with your digital products in the way that they would be able to interact in branch. So that might be things like live pricing and live stock on hand, right through to how their orders are being managed and delivered. The second one is an optimized front end, and that's the bit that we've made real progress on recently. So after getting that seamlessly integrated back end, getting all of our systems plumbed together, we started to work on the front end product on the Hybris Commerce Cloud. And the third one then, which is around marketing and personalization and shouting out to that CVP, what have we developed for our customers? So those are sort of the 3 pillars and the sequencing that we've approached this in. So integrate the back end, make sure everything works. Our APIs will talk to each other and all of our systems are connected. Optimize the front end, the customer facing work, and then really call out your CVP and do that through things like marketing and a better understanding of your customer through either automation or personalization. So we started by working on that integrated digital distribution piece. We then focused on establishing the digital skill sets within the team. And it would be fair to say that when we began this a few years ago, we weren't a particularly digitally literate business. And so Ritesh and the team established the digital team and used a number of key partners to bring those skill sets on board and build capability, engaging the C-suite, engaging the senior stakeholders and taking them on the journey. And then one of the other key things that we did that really delivered to that as well was making sure our change management throughout our branch network came along for the journey with us. So we've taken those, we've established a really strong change program. So how did we start that journey? Well, Ritesh had worked with Royal Cyber in the past, and so he engaged expert partners. So Royal Cyber was a key one, and we changed our delivery model. So we moved from waterfall project delivery to scaled agile. And scaled agile has been a really key game changer for us in terms of how we deliver product that our customers love. And one of the reasons that it's been such a key success for us is it's enabled us to bring our partners along for the journey with us. So Royal Cyber are part of our agile release train. We've got other teams that work with us from some of our edge systems have come on board our agile release train. Our change team are part of our agile release train. So we're all working together with the same understanding of what we're trying to deliver that's creating customer value. So Ritesh introduced Scale Agile, and he worked with Group Technologies. That's the Fletcher Building Group Technology team. And they're the team that focus on things like our speed, our security, our system stability, as well as our solutions architecture. We formed key software partnerships, so SAP, Bloomreach, MuleSoft, and those other edge systems have been really important to making sure that we've actually got a sort of a best in breed in the full scope and the tech stack that meets our customer requirements. And then, as I mentioned before, bringing those branch teams on, that change team on, to make sure that our processes keep pace with our customer-facing digital capability. Thanks, Nagesh. So I talk about delivering customer value, and I think the key thing to the success that we've had is that we've been obsessed with solving customer pain points. So really deeply understanding our customer and giving them an interconnected omnichannel experience. So we've got an awful lot of customer profile work that we've done, so we really understand who our customer is, and we understand them because our branches and our staff, they know these people personally, despite the fact that there are 70,000 of them. And our key customer segment is the small to medium enterprise builder. So he has typically got a team of 1 to 5 tradespeople who work for him. He'll build between 5 and 10 residential new build homes a year in New Zealand. However, there is a broader range of customers that we also look to within the industry. We've got group home builders and commercial customers, and we do stretch down into those those solo tradies. We in New Zealand would call them the man in a van, and into that retail and DIY market as well. But for us, that really core customer group that we're trying to problem solve for and that we want real stickiness with is that small to medium enterprise builder. And look, they interact with us in a number of ways. They're in store, so Placemakers has over 3 million store visits a year. They're on the job site. We deliver 250,000 deliveries to those sites, and we do that through our own transport fleet. And we take 1.3 million phone calls per year. So some of the solutions that we looked to were not your basic e-commerce solutions. They were actually getting close into that customer journey and understanding where those pain points were. So we released something called Skip the Counter, or STC, as we refer to it. And that effectively allows our customers to come in, scan, we have our yard people or our staff scan products for them. It goes through their phone app, and they can leave the branch with their truck fully loaded with goods without having to go and queue at a counter. For those of you familiar with Amazon Go, it's effectively Amazon Go for the hardware industry. And that's some of the pain points that our hours that we're busy in branch between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. typically, when our tradespeople are picking up their materials before they start their work for the day. So we have this great rush of customers in, having to queue for a significant amount of time before being able to go and start their day. So we went through a whole lot of customer journey mapping to understand where those pain points are. Key to this sort of branch digitization as well has been reducing issues and error. So by digitizing our dockets and our receipting, we've managed to reduce the number of credits that we get through. So that's actually been a real time saver for our customers in terms of the rework that they've had to do in the type of engagement. We've integrated with our transport management system. So as I mentioned, we run our own fleet of trucks. Our customers now have full visibility of their orders. When they're coming, they're able to book, add and amend orders, and they can do that and track it in an Uber style tracking of when their delivery is coming. So one of the primary customer phone calls that we get or customer queries that we get would be, where is my order? And now by developing a scalable digital stack that offers this, and sorry, I guess we'll just jump back to the previous one. I won't take too much time on it. We're able to show customers and reduce those phone calls. And then we wanted to offer our customers placemakers in their pocket. So the other issues that they're querying us for: what is my price? How much stock do I have? And how do I manage my job as well? So typically our tradespeople work in teams. So how do they manage to delegate to their other team members to collect their order? How do they manage to order off their estimates? And how do they go through that full end-to-end journey around invoicing as well? Thanks, Magesh. We'll jump through. So as you can see, there are a number of customer touch points that involves. And so that actually requires a fairly complex sort of interaction with our customers. So we've got, in this particular sense for our trade customers, we've got a mobile app and a trade portal. So they're customer-facing e-commerce or digital products. We want to integrate to our telesales team. That integrates through to our delivery transformation, so our transport management system. We've got our branch digitization, which is our zebras, our customers coming in and scanning, or even just our own internal branch processes around receipting, etc. We pull live inventory and pricing. And so for our customers, across 70,000 customers, we actually have 500 million live pricing records that we pull in effectively instantly. And we do that in a really fast and stable and secure manner through the APIs that Royal Cyber have delivered. We've got a customer information master and a product database. So we've got all of these complex edge systems and the sort of significant load on it. And so when we went to select the stack that we needed for it, partnering with Royal Cyber, SAP was the obvious choice for us because it was the one that was scalable and able to actually offer us the ability to go from sort of a really limited offering to a stable, secure offering across the business, across all of those various touch points, all of those various integrations, and one that we could continue to deliver customer value by continuing to develop on and add new features to. So in that sense, SAP Hybris was a really sort of clear choice for us, and one that the Royal Cyber team have absolute expertise in sort of delivering value on. We'd moved from a previous single site B2C e-commerce presence on Shopify, which we knew was actually never going to be able to scale to our 64 branches and all of these touch points. When you're talking about a complex business like this, it needs to be an enterprise level system that is able to actually service our business requirements and our customer requirements. Thanks, Magesh. So the 5 things that have really enabled us to deliver customer value over this time is, 1, the technology stack that we've used. So those are the software platforms that we've gone with. SAP is our primary system. We've got integrations via API through systems like MuleSoft, best of breed software stacks like Bloomreach, who offer us sort of best in market search and discoverability. 2, we've got the key partners who are able to deliver this for us. And when I say partners, I genuinely mean partners. I think Magesh maybe sold Royal Cyber a bit short when he introduced them as an IT services business. For us, they've been a partner both in sort of that thought leadership space and that strategic space as well. So they're not just our delivery partner, our development partner. They've actually gotten really close along with our business strategy. They've adapted their business to work with our business as well. So Royal Cyber have done a tremendous job of integrating with our scaled agile methodology, integrating with the hours in which we work. And I know New Zealanders work sort of funny hours compared to the rest of the world based on time zones. And the level of engagement and sort of commitment to helping the business succeed that Royal Cyber have shown have been really key to our success. And so if we hadn't chosen the right partners in that regard, we wouldn't have been able to move nearly as fast as we have. 3 is having the right solution architecture. So I've mentioned before a scalable, stable stack, one that we can actually plug in best of breed edge systems to. We use a really old legacy ERP as well. So something that's able to consume all of the various systems that we put in, give us a single view of the customer, and actually enable us to develop forward-facing things. So as we move into personalization and other solutions, having the right solution architecture in place from the get-go is really key. 4 is delivery. So again, the way in which we have moved to an agile delivery process, which has enabled us, 1, to deliver at pace. And that's really key, especially when we got into things like the COVID lockdown. And 5 is customer and staff engagement. So all of these things are great, but unless you take your team, your branches, your business on the journey, from both a senior stakeholder level to a practical on the floor level, these omni-channel experiences don't work. If you don't keep pace with the process change, there are pain points or things fall over. So putting all of those 5 things together are the key reasons for why Placemakers has been a success and has enabled us to move at pace. So really quick timeline view here. And basically, we were working on some of those back-end integrations pre-2019, but the digital program really took off sort of in mid-2019. We released a trade app MVP in late 2019. In early 2020, we went into COVID lockdown, and we launched our true version of the app in 5 days, so much closer to what you'd see today if you're experiencing the Placemakers app. And that was because customers at the time couldn't order from Placemakers in any other way. Our branches were closed, so to enable them to order from a full range of product, we launched our app V2, and that brought in a much broader product range. So our MVP trade app, 2,000 products of those key products that customers needed, but very sort of simple functionality. App V2 brought a lot of new functionality, but also massively expanded the product range so customers could shop a wider basket of goods. We launched Skip the Counter, so Amazon Go one, which allowed our customers contactless collection. So again, avoiding those COVID issues or those COVID contact issues. And then we launched the trade portal late last year. So as you can see, there was not a lot of customer-facing action happening pre-2019. And then the rate at which we've delivered various customer-facing products and various customer-facing features has really ramped up. Thanks, Vigesh. So happy days, we've ramped up our product delivery, we've launched our app, and we've launched our trade portal, and we've got these phenomenal products in market. And we had a really broad product range. I mentioned before, about 75,000 SKUs, and it's a broad and deep range. And our conversion rate, once we went live with this really broad range, actually dropped significantly. And it dropped significantly due to one key reason, which was product discoverability. Customers couldn't find what they wanted on the Placemakers platform. So in our original MVP, 2,000 products and very key products, so timber or lumber and some screws, etc. For that initial product launch, we then went broader to the full hardware and building supplies offer when we launched the trade portal in V2 of that. And one of the key things to our success has been that we always circle back to what are our customers saying about our products, running customer focus groups, running sort of in-branch checks, as well as our sales team, who are really closely keyed into what customers are saying. And so the survey on week 1 was what's the primary thing that we can do to improve, and by far and away, product discoverability, or as our customers call it, search, was their primary pain point. And what would motivate them to purchase more often online, make it easy to find products, and improve search. So that was more than giving them better pricing or any of those other sort of non-digital features, was actually help us find what we need online. And so at that time, we were using an out-of-the-box search solution. And the out-of-the-box search solution, we, in fairness, as a business, because there is nothing wrong with that search solution, it's a keyword search, it worked fine, but we as a business didn't have the understanding of how to actually map for that search. So how to use the correct keywords, synonyms, and weightings to actually get the right results, certainly from a relevance point of view, as well as from a ranking point of view. And it was going to take us an awful lot of time to actually build that capability internally. At the same time, as I've mentioned before, New Zealand's been a little bit behind in this digital adoption, and our product data that we have is horribly inconsistent. And we deal with over 400 key suppliers, but up to 1,500 total suppliers. And the quality of data that we get from those varies from being incredibly good to incredibly poor. But even the ones that are incredibly good, across them it's fairly inconsistent. And whether that be across dimensions, keywords, or terminology that they use, right through to naming convention in terms of the syntax and the structure of how our products are mapped. So 75,000 products, but no good way of tracking to them, which actually made us a bit lost in terms of how do we approach solving this problem ourselves. So what we did is we went to our key partner, Royal Cyber, thanks Mukesh, and we made the decision and we asked them to say, what are our options for improving product discoverability? How do we build a better product discovery journey? And Royal Cyber helped us run a tender or an RFP process. We evaluated several search partners, and we chose Bloomreach in the end because they actually are not just a merchandising partner. They actually offered us sort of a long-term strategic optionality around the different modules that they have and the way in which we could improve. So we reviewed a couple of keyword search partners, and what we discovered was that whilst we might be able to implement them and they might give us better search results relatively quickly, that was all that they would ever do for us. By looking to Bloomreach and integrating Bloomreach, not only do we get AI-powered product discovery, so that improved our search, enabled our browse, so enabled our category browse, as well as our catalog discovery, so not just search, but our customer paths to purchase and the varying ways in which they may want to purchase, so things like dynamic filters, and one of the ways that our customers shop is primarily by stage of build. They build in a linear process, so we've developed a secondary path to purchase around stage of build, so not just product category, but the order or the sequence in which our customers may purchase that product. And that's been enabled by the AI-powered product discovery and filtering that Bloomreach has. It's also enabled us to build our dynamic landing pages. So that's at a category as well as a search-specific level. Helps us integrate our content and is the key thing that powers our promo campaigns currently as well. So the problem that we were trying to solve initially was just that insight search, that product discoverability. But by working with Royal Cyber and then partnering with us to show us the optionality, what we actually might want going forward, engaging with Bloomreach and working to implement Bloomreach, we've actually now set ourselves up not just for immediate tactical success with search, but also strategically the options for us going forward, which enable us to get closer to our B2B customers, building sort of dynamic search results for specific customer groups who we know purchase specific product sets, so that the customer's getting personalized results based on who they are and what their requirements are. Thanks, Mukesh. And so I won't go too deep into the numbers, except to say that when you listen to your customers and they tell you that something is a problem and you partner with experts to solve that problem, you see an immediate impact in what that means. So this is our trade portal conversion rate, and it had been tracking pretty solidly. So this was 4 weeks before we launched Bloomreach, but actually our conversion had been fairly low for the 6 or 8 weeks prior to that. We launched Bloomreach and it took us about 2.5 to 3 months, and the Bloomreach engagement team were actually exceptionally good at integrating into our agile release train, working with our business team, the Royal Cyber team, to understand the business requirements, not just the technical requirements. They trained up our web merchandisers. They gave us an understanding of how to use analytics and dashboarding to continue to improve search. And so what you see on that week 1 is the launch of the Bloomreach search module on our B2B platform, so our portal and app, and an immediate lift in site conversion. Week 2, we made some configuration changes based on the recommendations in the analytics dashboard. And then week 3, we see another lift in search conversion rate. And what you actually see is that that's lifted the overall site conversion as well. So it's been the leading indicator that's dragged our overall site conversion up. And we're now performing at what we think is not just industry best, but sort of in top quartile for B2B conversion rate for our trade portal. So key to that was not just to having the technical understanding and the technical implementation, but also a partner who worked with you on the business understanding to deliver the right outcomes. So I think that's me, Magesh, so far for the run through of the journey. Happy to answer any questions as we go through.
Magesh, I think you might be mute.
Yeah. Hey Tom. Thank you. Thanks for a very detailed and very business-centric presentation. So what were the KPIs for the project when you went into it, and how did you convince your C-suite to invest into this Bloomreach solution? Right. I'm pretty sure like you understand the benefit of it. Like how did you end up convincing everyone else that this is essential for the business?
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to that, Magesh, but Ritesh, did you want to give your view on that and how you took the C-suite on the journey?
Sorry, Tommy, repeat that again, mate. Just couldn't hear you.
So in terms of how did you bring the exec team on the journey in terms of selecting Bloomreach, and what sort of KPIs were you driving towards when you were making those decisions and taking them through that investment profile?
So Tom, I think the answer is that we had a real business challenge in discovery, and the business challenge in discovery was an impact which was quite noticeable in terms of revenue and adoption. So that created a burning platform for the organization to look at some different optionality. So the case was quite clear. If we didn't have a search platform optimized to generate revenue, our adoption scores would not reach our target, which means our end-of-year digital revenue targets would not be realized. So that was the burning platform. So we had that, and plus our customer complaints were quite strong in terms of the feedback surveys you saw regarding search. In terms of the key KPIs, again, it was driven through revenue adoption and what's right for the customer experience. We knew that search across this industry was quite poor, and if we had got it right, it would make our platform not only be very competitive compared to our competitors, but also provide greater customer experience, which we didn't think was available in New Zealand right now. So that was some of the key KPIs. In terms of decision-making process, it was quite simple. It was just what most organizations do from an ROI perspective, what the cost is, what the benefits are, and that just created a clear decision-making process. The executives are quite engaged in digital. They're quite aligned in terms of the vision for Placemakers. So that just makes it a lot easier having these discussions and getting business cases through.
Thank you, Ritesh. That's very insightful. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I will invite.
Just to add to that, the way that we've been able to keep the C-suite engaged, and it's probably a good learning because we've had a few false starts over the 2 years of the program, is the governance structure that we have in place. So the execs are engaged and willing to give us the time, but we also involve them in the decision-making process, the product roadmap, and the regular, not just operational updates from a business point of view, but also delivery updates. So that frequent sort of and deliberate checkpoints and gates around when you choose to do something have been really key. So if I was starting this again, one of the things that I'd say was the key part of success was the way that we engage the exec level and the governance structure of this, and frequently as well, the timeframes which we do it.
Thank you, Tom. That's very helpful. So I'll invite Jason now from Bloomreach to basically talk about the product itself, what Bloomreach does and how it does. So Jason, over to you.
Yeah, first I'd like to extend my gratitude to Tom for doing such a great job of doing my job and explaining, what it is that the solution does. Ultimately what Bloomreach believes is that when it comes to B2B, the industry as a whole is kind of getting ready we're moving into sort of the third phase of maturity. When a lot of B2B companies first started to go digital, you got to think back like 20 years to the early 2000s. It was, everybody had their PDF catalog, they put it up, they had one price and they showed it to everybody. And there was a lot of, there were some people who bought into that right away, but that created challenges for a lot of companies. It's difficult. Most companies in distribution don't go to market trying to be the low price solution, right? So it creates this dissonance between the businesses where you've got the offline business trying to compete on value add and services, and the online business has no choice but to compete on price. And that's not a sustainable business model. So when you get into the later 20 aughts into the teens, this is when the idea of the endless aisle opened up. And suddenly everybody's like, hey, we can be the one-stop shop to find everything that you need. So we're going to add more vendors, add more products. You look at, this is right around the time that Amazon got into the B2B space, adding hundreds of thousands of products to their industrial and scientific line. But that's not a zero cost. The cost of adding an incremental SKU is not, it's not huge, but it's not zero. And once you get to the point of having, hundreds of thousands or millions of SKUs, you run into that tree falling in a forest problem, right? Just because you have a SKU if your customers can't find the SKU, if you can't manage the product data to that scale, you can actually find that your cost to manage all of these products might actually fall behind the additional revenue because your customers can't find the products to begin with. So now what companies have done in distribution is they are seeing there is an opportunity to create a sustainable competitive advantage. And that goes right back to the foundational statement that Tom shared at the beginning of his conversation. No one is easier to do business with than us. And how you have to think about how you do that in a digital manner. You make it easy to find the products that customers want to look for. You want them to be able to use the terms that are meaningful for them. B2B is notorious for having a lot of jargon terms, regional terms. When a nurse in a hospital is searching for a glove and an electric lineman working for a contractor is searching for a glove, they want very different kinds of gloves, right? It's on us as the distributors, as the companies who are adding values to our customers, to learn about who that customer is, what do they want, and when they search for something, what do they mean? So you've got this opportunity here to bring together not just the product data, which has been the foundation of most B2B companies' e-commerce to this point, but you can also bring in the customer information. Who is that customer? What are they doing? What are they searching for today? And go ahead and do next slide, Magesh. And this is really where Bloomreach shines, is bringing that product data and an understanding semantically about what all these terms mean, what these attributes mean, how do you convert between different units of measure, which products are more relevant to certain customer types, and you bring that together to create a composite discovery experience by bringing in who is the customer, what are they searching for, what do other customers like them, what does their behavior tell us about how they're trying to solve their problem. The ability to bring together that customer data and that product data and then execute it on it very, very quickly. So you need the business team to be able to do this, to be able to create boost and bury rules, to tune the search, to create promotions, recommendations without having to cut tickets to IT and put that additional burden on them is a huge part of it. And this is fundamentally what the Bloomreach Experience platform is designed to do. It's how do you engage with your customers? How do you create the experience of the website itself? And how do you layer on top of this a discovery process that can not just understand the what, but give you some insights into the why? And doing this all in a headless first system allows us to partner with, the leading e-commerce platform companies. SAP, is such a powerful tool and such a powerful partner for us in this program. And our ability to work with them hand in hand to put together a solution that really worked for Placemakers is something we're very proud of. So that's the summary of who we are.
Okay, I'll quickly invite Scott to talk about the SAP Commerce Platform, which is driving the entire e-commerce for Placemakers.
Thanks, Magesh.
I'll make it a
You
presenter.
could make me a presenter, please. And sorry, 1 second.
So while Scott is presenting, so question for you, Jason. So how like the Bloomreach product search solution, right? Like how was it adapted generally in the market? Like more B2C customers are using it. Like how is the adoption in the B2B industry? Could you talk a little bit about it?
It's really taken off in the last 12 to 18 months, I think. Some of it, I think, has more to do with the fact that the digital maturity of B2B tends to be a little bit behind the consumer good market. So, when Ritesh was talking about how, we were a little bit behind, but we saw there was this big opportunity to make that leap forward and start to set ourselves apart from not just our competitors locally, but also when you think about some of these global distribution disruptors who are trying to move into these spaces. That ability to create an experience where as your customers are using you, like they put out a term like I need searching for this, for you to be able to say, yeah, I know what that is. Here's what you need. And you know what? I'm even going to put some thought into this. And I'm going to put the items that are most relevant to you at the top without anybody from the placemaker side having to put a lot of effort or time into managing those rules manually has the potential to be a real difference maker, in this as the market becomes more competitive online.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, one of the key opportunities that we saw with Bloomreach was that it stretched across not just our B2B products, the app and portal, but also into B2C. And we can get quite different results for B2C customers than for B2B customers based on what we understand the intent of their search to be, and the likelihood that they're shopping a particular product suite or product catalog, without actually having to manually make those changes ourselves. The Bloomreach algorithm, from a web merchandise point of view, will boost different products for different B2B use cases than for different B2C use cases. So the one product actually was the only one that we could see that would work across our full product suite.
Thank you, Tom. Yep, that helps. Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Magesh, and thanks again to the team, both from Raw Cyber and the team from Placemakers for the insights and the opportunity to speak. Rather than talk necessarily about SAP's software and what we are, I would rather think it would be valuable for the attendees. They often come here to listen to how Placemakers got it done and what the results were for them as they built business cases for their own digital transformations. So given our global reach, which presenters very kindly talked about, I wanted to look at what we see in some of the mega trends for B2B in particular with digital, leverage perhaps our customer base, which is pretty large, to talk about some of those trends and see how businesses can maybe use that to build their business cases for change in B2B. We will at the end get into a little bit about the capabilities that drive that, but really I'm going to leave software discussions for another time. So I guess our insights come fundamentally from those first two stats. We've got some 2,500 plus customers running SAP Commerce. And those customers in B2B alone transacted $576 billion US of gross merchandise value through those systems. And we can measure that, and without revealing anything to anyone else, of course, look at what that is meaning across that very broad customer base spread all around the world, and analyze some of the trends that are happening. We've been doing it for a while, so we talked about the growth of it and where it came from in terms of the emergence of just a price list online through to more complex business transactions. And you can see that that's a very much an exponential curve, which sort of from 2014, I guess, has pretty much doubled through to 2019. So 13% year on year. It'd be interesting to see what will happen now, of course, because something quite major happened in 2020, and the COVID pandemic and the associated lockdowns and restrictions on the construction industry and other B2B ordering industries really drove an immense shift. So looking really on the chart on the left from the buyer's perspective, those who prefer their journey to be online for the entire journey is actually 70% that prefer. And yet the blue bars are what are actually what we're actually getting in terms of in-person traditional methods of doing business, and it's only the yellow there that is getting to those different processes within a B2B journey, getting to do that transaction entirely online. The remote grey in the middle, of course, is your call center and the things that Placemakers have talked about having. So they want 70%, but they're only getting 22, 36, and 35, according to McKinsey, across parts of that buying journey. One thing we find in B2B, and I find as a person convincing customers to come on a digital B2B journey, is that sellers are often reluctant to adopt it as well. The equivalent in, I guess, a Placemakers context of a trade sales rep or a B2B sales rep, they have an opinion that they're the people who can guide their customers to buy. Digital can't possibly replace me, and I'm a vital key in a cog in the machine, and digital will never sort of see me go the way of the dinosaur. But COVID changed all that, because like a lot of other people, like me, like probably everyone on the call, we're all working from home right now. Certainly those in New Zealand are. And the seller's opinion changed through the course of the pandemic, and it's changed permanently. So by the end, 75% were finding online as effective as in person in terms of how they could sell. But it tends not to be just online as in Zoom calls like this. It's online through transacting with the customer online as well. Another B2B customer of ours, just a short suburb away from Placemakers, who sells consumer products and beverages, that they've dealt with that by making sure that their sales reps are comped if someone in their territory buys online, even if they never touched that transaction. And so things like that are important to consider with your change management as you look to introduce B2B models. The sellers are, I won't say as important as the buyers, but they're also very important. This graph is actually the order volumes from our system. In grey, 2019, so there's a gradual tick up for sure. 2020 shown in yellow, and the point at which the pandemic came in, you can see the marked increase of orders through the platform that we experienced and that we were able to measure through that time. And I can say that it has been sustained through 2021. So it wasn't a blip. It wasn't something that will go back to normal. It was a sea change. So looking at the mega trends driving that B2B processes, the first one's been spoken about a bit. It's people expecting the experience they get as a consumer when they're at home shopping in their B2B experience. So that's all the obvious stuff that we all know from our internet shopping. Can I see my status of my order, etc., etc. But B2B is that plus more in terms of processes. You, of course, have the persona that Tom showed. That builder may want his apprentice to be able to order certain things, but not others. He may have a credit limit. He may have limits based on a predefined job schedule and work breakdown structure matched to an order volume through the periods of that job, where that apprentice can only collect what he's allowed to. So giving B2B journeys that are more complex like that is stacks on top of the consumerization and goes to the digitization of those more complex processes. We're also seeing a rise in new digital engagement models. So can a traditional call center perhaps approach to ring up and make an order, can that call center operator redirect the person back to the cheaper channel, the more efficient channel for both the customer and the B2B supplier by making that order online? We're seeing the rise of direct-to-consumer channels. I feel that in New Zealand building products, there is a well-established channel that Placemakers is a key part of it. The distribution business at Fletcher Buildings is a key part of. But there are direct-to-consumer brands coming around the side. So it may be that those brands that are coming in areas like power tools, where they bring in their own brand and market it directly to consumers with a mainly online presence, it's more of that one that's a threat that you need to counter as a business like Placemakers than necessarily, you're already direct to consumer yourself. Business and service offerings, a number of other Fletcher building companies we speak to about this, where you have the concept of a consumer coming to your website to be educated about your building products, to be inspired, but to actually buy that, it'll be a tradesperson. And to specify that, it'll be an architect or a kitchen designer or a bathroom designer. So dealing with those combinations of the service that your partners provide and the products that you provide as a product provider is key. And finally, marketplaces. So why would we really want to hold stock of something like, let's say we want to sell ride-on lawnmowers for $20,000 each? Why not have a kiosk with that in store or online where the user can order it and you don't have to hold the stock, and the vendor can look after, or that your supplier can look after their own product content through the marketplace that you own. They can order it, but by the way, when they come to pick it up from you or have it delivered by you, would you like to add all of these other things that Placemakers supply? So there's some of those mega trends. And I'll just finish here with what that means on capabilities. Mega trends down the left, customer engagement. So B2B audience are expecting that to be seamless. We've talked a lot about pricing, frictionless buying processes. It's a lot harder to do that in B2B than it is to B2C, but it is becoming doable, and the growth and the size of the prize we feel is a lot, well, the data shows is a lot greater. A lot of discussion on product content, and that seems to be a very common thing. I think you're dead right that you have the best experience in the game at Placemakers in New Zealand as we work with a number. It's a special challenge with the nature of the SKUs that businesses like Placemakers hold, that are 70,000 SKUs Tom talked about, different brands and types of the same thing, different descriptions of it for different parts of business or different types of buyers. So dealing with that is a particularly stringent problem in your business. Responsive service. So how can your call center see what's going on in the service in the digital world from the customer's perspective? And finally, order management. Nothing happens until the order gets delivered, and the value isn't completed until that point. So we find that that particularly B2B customers are in it for convenience, they're in it for saving time because their time is their money. Order management and fulfillment is something that isn't just a traditional commerce area. In fact, if you look at that whole bottom row, those things are not traditional commerce areas. They loop into ERPs and service desk software and so forth. So that's an area where B2B is something that needs some ideas that span the enterprise. So with that, I think we're at time, and I'll hang up and open up for questions. But thank you again for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Scott. So there are a few questions coming through. I'll probably run it by the forum panel here. So start with Hema, like as a delivery manager who worked on this project, right? I think you may be able to answer this question. So how long did it take to implement Bloomreach, and what are the like high level steps involved in doing that?
Hi Mangesh, hi team. So it took us approximately 12 weeks for the implementation, and there were 4 key phases of this implementation. The first being the pixel implementation, where we captured the customer behavior, what they are searching on the site, and what products do they add to the cart, and what do they finally check out, and what do they browse on the site. So all these customer behaviors were captured via the pixels, and they were fed into the Bloomreach algorithm. And the second phase was where we shared the entire product catalog of the Placemakers to the Bloomreach, which are being used as part of their engine as well to boost and bury products and then to return the product details. And the third phase was API integration, where we used the Bloomreach APIs, which were returning the products as per the search results with the relevance. And we basically used 3 APIs for Placemakers. And post all these 3 key phases, then there is a listen and tune phase where the Bloomreach, they would validate and reconcile the pixel information, and then they would tune the APIs to send the relevant products. So those were the 4 key phases of this implementation.
Cool. And how do you feel about the experience of working with the Bloomreach product itself, Hema? Like the team and the product itself?
Yeah, so this was the first time that Royal Sabre started, doing an integration for Bloomreach. And we had an initial discovery workshop where we understood how Bloomreach works and what are the key parts of it. And the Bloomreach team all through the journey were very, collaborating with us, and they also helped us understand what are the customizations needed. We worked with our business and the architects, and we figured out, post Bloomreach implementation, or what are the other customizations that we would need to display the results. So it was a very quite a wonderful journey where they worked hand in hand with us, and they guided us at every step.
Thank you, Hema. And Tom, a quick question for you. So, if like what are the trigger points for any customers, right? Some of our audience members, they'll be interested in or maybe thinking whether Bloomreach is right solution for them or not. So, what are the trigger points at which they need to start thinking about implementing a AI-based solution? And so a follow-up question, maybe I'll club them together, right? So if you have to do the Placemakers project all over again, right? Would you start with Bloomreach as the first solution rather than wait till a certain point to implement that? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer the second part of that first, which is to say, absolutely, if we had our time again, we would have begun with Bloomreach from the absolute first instance. Once we put our enriched product data onto the portal, that's when we saw a drop-off of conversion and a drop-off of usage, because we were offering a poor experience. And it is much harder to get a customer who has had a poor experience back than it is to engage new customers or get customers to use it for the first time. So we did miss an opportunity there by not seeing that search and the site search that we had was going to be a problem. And then, as Hema mentioned, we acted pretty quickly. It only took us 12 weeks to fix, but that's 12 weeks of sort of lost opportunity. And in a market that's moving this fast, 3 months or a quarter is a lot of missed opportunity to increase engagement and increase conversion. So the trigger points for us, if I was looking at this from the get-go with the knowledge that I have now, would be understanding the state of the product data before you looked to put it through, and understanding the breadth of your range. Jason made some really good points as well, in particular with B2B customers, about using really sort of different terminology, whether that be jargon or regional variations that heavily impact that as well. So I'd suggest in B2C, probably less important and with a much more narrow range. So if you're thinking retail apparel, for example, customers generally know the terms in which to search. But when you move to B2B, then you're dealing with slang, jargon, and a number of dimensions, and product dimensions become really key to the customer finding what it is that they need. But those are often articulated in different ways. So had we taken that first approach to do an assessment of our current product data before pushing it live, we would have gone with Bloomreach before we ran into problems.
Thank you, Tom. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. So before we wind up the call, I think we're a little bit over time. So winding remark, I just want to summarize the Royal Cyber's experience and what we bring to the table as an organization. We have done a significant number of commerce implementations. So both in B2B and B2C sector, and especially in Australia and New Zealand region, we have done quite a lot of B2B projects with which we have learned a lot, and we can apply that learning across the industry. And it's a large SAP Commerce delivery. We have a large SAP Commerce delivery team, about at this point 100+ commerce developers with more than 50% certified in SAP Commerce. And we have a very strong presence both in most of our development happens in offshore centers, but we have people working in North America where we have a lab division where we innovate on customer solutions as well. So that we have strong partnership with SAP, working alongside Scott Bagley's team, and we implement quite a lot of projects on SAP Commerce. Again, we're talking about our delivery centers, because we have growing delivery centers both in India, Pakistan, and also now in Australia and New Zealand as well. And apart from just delivering projects, we also continuously do innovations by building additional products and plugins that can be readily used by our customers. Instead of starting from scratch, we do all the investment and pre-work and discovery needed to enable our customers. So our innovation and research team spends quite a significant investment on doing those solutions. So Royal Cyber as a company, we come from a very, very humble beginning, and after 20 years, we still keep that humbleness with us. We work closely with our customers, like that's a first customer, right? Every customer we treat like our first customer, and integrate completely to help them grow and succeed. So with that, I will close this session, and thank you so much for Tom, Jason, Scott, and Hema for joining this roundtable. It's a very meaningful information that all our participants can take and start thinking about implementing and achieving similar success. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Magesh.
Thanks, Magesh.
Thank you.